Hello, everybody, and good morning. This is Margaret Pinard. Welcome to my channel. You're on Booktube, and I'm here today, the 5th of November. I'm an Anglophile, so that rings a bell in my head. I'm here the 5th of November for all the folks who are participating in NaNo and are curious about what happens when you finish, what happens when you win. I thought I would do a couple of tags today for those who are curious about being an author and like the rest of the story with NaNoWriMo. In case you don't know, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, when a bunch of writers try to write 50,000 words in 30 days in November, with the community cheering each other on and hoping to get at least the start of a book. So I have done this many times, and several of my books from NaNo have turned into published books. So I'm going to be doing two tags. One is actually called a tag. It's called the NaNoWriMo tag by Christina Horner, and it's very old. I think I found this from 8 years ago, and I will be reading off her questions. And then the other one is less of a actual tag and more of a writing discussion, which I was tagged by Hannah's books to go over, so that will be pretty exciting for me as well. Hannah is a lovely booktuber. So first of all, I'm just going to say hello and welcome, put up my little banner here, and get ready to dive in with the questions. Boop. I have a question in the live chat. In case you are here now, you can answer it. If you're a writer at the moment, do you have a word count for today? That's my question. So mine is 838, which is pretty good because it's a busy, busy day, and this is a last-minute live action live stream. I thought I was going to pre-record it and then just ran out of time. So here we go. If you want information on Christina Horner's channel, she is down in the description. First question, how many times have you done NaNoWriMo? And I'm going to be looking at my little cheat sheet here. I've done NaNo 10 times. And if you look on the NaNo site, that means 8 wins and 2 non-wins, let's say, which means I started out, didn't really have like total commitment, and then just ended up not finishing the 50,000 words. But 8 times I have, so that's a pretty good record. This will be my 11th participating in NaNo. And there's more questions later that I'll get more specific with that. Let me pop this up if you've got questions as I go along. Wow, I'm getting a little radio voice here. Before we go to number 2, we'll say hi to Anita. Anita is a nanoer. Say hi to RC. I don't think RC is a nanoer. We've got Jordan. Hello, hello. And lots of distractions today, says Anita, but 615 so far. Excellent. Great job. Okay. Number 2 for this tag is, how did you first find out about NaNoWriMo? So again, if you spy in my background on the NaNo site, you'll know that 2012 was the first year that I participated. At that point, I was living in Washington, D.C. I had a full-time job at a nonprofit. I was on a very different career path. And 2012 was 4 years after I had finished grad school. And I was looking for something else to do. So I think the site was pretty well established. I mean, it hasn't been updated, but well established. So when I started writing, I think I must have started looking up some of those early indie author blogs and learned about it then. I don't actually remember. So yeah, I just know that it was 2011, 2012. 2011, actually, sorry, 2011, because 2012 was when I published the book. So yes, No, 2013 is when I published the book. Oh my goodness, I'm getting my dates mixed up because it's so long ago. Okay, question 3. Question 3, what was the name of the first novel you attempted with Nano? And this is why you have a website that has your information stored for you. I called it Time Falls, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's got a couple of different meanings. I like to have different connotations with a title, and that did for a working title, I suppose. That is the book that became this one, and I went back and loaded the cover so that people know that it actually got published. But that was the first Nano novel that I published, which is pretty cool. Question 4, give us a one-sentence summary of what you're writing this year. Okay, so sort of pre-gamed this, but not entirely. One-sentence summary is it's a historical fantasy set in 1840s Glasgow, Victorian Britain, and it involves our main character, who is a middle-aged widow who is trying to learn about the system of which she is a part, and ends up stumbling upon some hidden powers that she figures out how to use to her advantage and the advantage of the underdogs, let's say. So that is my guiding light. I don't do inspiration boards or like Pinterest boards or anything like that for visuals. I just keep it up in here and do outlines and scenes and names and sort of pieces that I help draw from as I draft. So hopefully that entices. Number 5, what's the best writing advice you've ever been given? And I have to say, to answer this question, that writing advice that isn't like directly related to the writing, it's just general advice, like goes in one ear and out the other. So I haven't hung on to any specific writing advice, but what popped into my mind when I was thinking about this question was a movie that I just watched that had some advice that the character takes to heart. And that movie was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I just saw this on Netflix. So it references the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, and the death of one of the characters who says, just keep going. And that's his advice. So I thought that is pretty good writing advice, and that is what I will pass on to you in this tag. Don't let your judgment cloud your progress. Even if you think it's crap, just keep going, because you have to get something on the page in order to make progress. You can never get something perfect out of your head onto the page without editing it, right? So just keep going is the best advice that I would apply from that movie to writing. Question number 6. Did you ever take a year off from Nano, and why? And very clear on this answer because it's more recent than the earlier Nanos. And yes, I have taken, let's see, 2011, 1, 2, 3. So that would be 13, and I took off last year. So I lost 2 and I took off last year. I put a project on, and then when I saw that when I was doing this tag, I just deleted it because I didn't enter any words. I actually discussed where on my channel last year why I decided not to participate in Nano last year. So I don't know why I bothered to put up a project. It would have been a 10th like completed project if I won, and the whole like putting a bow on 10 years last year was stressing me out. And so instead of conforming to the pressure of like having a perfect record or trying for it, I said, I'm going to resist this attempt to, I don't know, be systematic, because I don't like that vibe with my creative writing power. So I just said no and just cheered other people on. that was fun enough, right? Plenty of extra sprints, plenty of new faces that I got to see when people were joining on AuthorTube and Booktube. So that was fun for me. And I think it probably gave me enough sort of battery charging to be able to come back and participate in Camp Nano in April, and then think about it and come back for Nano this year in November. Question number 7 from Christina. What's your biggest inspiration when figuring out what to write? Okay. And when figuring out what to write, that is the key detail. Now, I am a historical fiction and historical fantasy author, so the things that inspire me to write about them are moments in history that I haven't heard about, haven't been portrayed, haven't been put on the big screen, are not taken for granted. Things that I learned, maybe lots of people know them, but I never learned them in school. And the pathos of the moment, or the importance or significance to history, just seems so big to me, and yet I never learned about it. So that type of feeling is what instigates like a little spark. And if I keep reading and see that, okay, I think I can see a regular person, a fictional character that I could create, going through and being the canvas for the effects of this change, or representing how people felt during this moment in time. And that's what appeals to me. That's what inspires me to write about it. I was just talking with Shannon yesterday during our 15-hour writing relay, the Pass the Pen relay, where we were all going out of our minds trying to write lots and lots of words. And basically, I was thinking, I've got lots of ideas, but they don't pan out. So I don't bother trying to make those into books, because I don't know if I will be interested in them long enough to write enough, So sometimes I'll put those on sticky notes. Some of them are still stuck on my secretary, but they've never expanded into like a character story that would draw me in enough to write a full-on book-length story. So the biggest inspiration is when I can see that moment of pathos in history that is new to me, sort of written on someone's body as like experienced in time, and that will have repercussions for people reading it today. So like the relevance, I guess, is a big factor as well. And in order to do that, I have to read books. So it is my very strong opinion that you cannot be a writer without being first a reader. And it doesn't mean you have to read lots of history nonfiction like I do, but that's what I would say. I read nonfiction and get inspired that way to bring these moments of history to light. But other people can read other stories and have ideas about emotional journeys or what have you. But I really think that in order to make the idea you have that you want to share the best it can, you have to see how other people are doing it so that you can see how you want to fit into that, whether you want to stand out and do something different, or whether you want to conform to expectations so that like you sell books. Hey, that's a good goal too. But yeah, I don't know how it could work otherwise. And if you're looking for nonfiction books because you have similar thoughts, I have a really great recommendation for Nonfiction November, which is happening right now. A readathon to read nonfiction books, any type: science, nature, medical, self-help, religion, history, of course. I have a load of good nonfiction recommendations that is down in the description, I'm sure. Okay, winding up here, I've got question 8. Read us the first sentence from one of your novels. And I'm going to take my most recent novel, NaNo novel. It's the last in the series. It's called Storm Rack, like bladder rack seaweed, and Spindrift, which is the spray off of a wave when it crashes. Can you tell I like evocative titles? And I'll just give you the very unassuming first line. Sheena stood in the early twilight, with one hand on the rough, seasoned wood of the cabin. sighing a soft breath before rejoining the lively gathering inside. Boom. There we go. And then final question, why do you love writing? I love writing because how many directions can you go at once? Because I have a lot of imaginative power to have compassion that has nowhere to go in a solitary life often. And I find that pouring that into a fictional story both eases my discomfort as well as is like a hand outstretched to try to reach out to other people and include them in an emotional discussion of what's happening in the world and how it's happened before and what we think and feel about that. I don't know if that's a very vague or like resonant answer. Who knows? Let me know in the comments. And that is Christina Horner's tag. So that's the first one. And now I'm going to hop on over to Hannah's books. She had a tag that was called Writing If You're Bookish. Now here's what I know. Neil Gaiman had a sort of, I won't call it a diatribe, it wasn't negative, but like a rambling video about writing. And then Brian of Bookish took that and turned it into a meditation on writing and how he writes. And then he tagged Hannah, I guess. And so Hannah turned into her rambling meditation on how she writes. And the thing is, both Brian and Hannah write nonfiction books. So very niche, either academic texts or historical texts. And yeah, so that is very different. But Hannah reached out and tagged me because I'm one of the authors she knows on Booktube. And so I picked out the main themes of her video, even though they're not arranged as questions. And I hope this suffices to answer her curiosity. So thank you, Hannah, for tagging me. Let me get some water here before I start on the next tag. And that will be us for today. So if you're curious about these things, if you're one of those nano writers, like the stream, subscribe for more. We'll definitely be having some more sprints and all that fun stuff. Okay, so Hannah's tag, Writing If You're Bookish. The first piece she explores is handwriting versus typing. And this is kind of one of the first things you have to decide. What's your format going to be? When you sit down to write a book, do you handwrite it first or do you type it first? And for me, I started out handwriting. My first book was written over about a year's time after work in a notebook, in several notebooks. And I had to transfer those to the computer, and that took a while. So I wasn't doing Nano. It wasn't a compressed time schedule. It was an experiment. Every book after that, I have drafted on the computer, on a computer. Because when I considered it and thought about handwriting, I thought, that's too indulgent. I like the feel of handwriting, but I can't excuse or give myself a dispensation for all the time it would take to type out this manuscript. So I figure if I type it first, I am saving hours and hours of transcribing myself. And so that is a very practical concern. Let's see. There are other considerations that I have here, though. At this point, storage is a concern. Google has been like dragging me about running out of storage. And Shannon, ST Houston, has said that when you make a new email address with Google, it gives you another of the same storage limit. But I have yet to find this to be true because maybe I just need to move stuff around. Anyway, it's still an issue. My Dropbox is full. My Google Drive is full. My iCloud is full. And that's hardly anything. And so that would indicate that maybe I should start handwriting stuff, but I don't think it's the handwriting. I think it's the recording that's are taking up the space. But anyway, that's a consideration. Should you have a lot of music or photos stored on your drives or digital drives? Another thing, another limit, I have an upper limit, is that when I write things in notebooks, I keep the notebooks. And so far, I've got it in one like Rubbermaid bin to sort of document my writing journey. And then all the journals and planners, which are a different sort of documentation, I have in an underbed storage bin. But there is a very limited amount of underbed storage. There's only one bed. It's not very big. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to expand that. I'm looking at getting like, built-in wall-to-wall shelves. Who knows? Like maybe if I did that, I could have a whole section attributed to just the notebooks that I've written in. Wouldn't that be cool? And let's see. Another consideration for this handwriting versus typing is searchability. So when I am looking for story ideas that I've written on, often I will have keywords in mind. I will have the title that I wrote down. I will have the date sometimes. I will have a character name. I will have a strange word that I wouldn't have used in any other work. And I search for it when it's digital, right? That you can do. You can't do that in your notebooks. And I do not go through notebooks and tag them at any point at this point. So that is a big vote in the digital category because searchability means efficiency. So for me, trying to publish more books, trying to make this a business, trying to get the word out there, I value the time that I can save by searching for things digitally rather than looking through pages like, I don't know, I'm searching in an encyclopedia for a word. So that is another big consideration. And the update on the searchability thing is that with the planners that I save, I do have tables of contents because maybe 5-6 years I've been doing the bullet journaling style, which means that when you go through, you add ideas, things that you may want to reference later into the front and give it a page number. So you can look at the table of contents that you've made after the whole year rounds up. And then that is your index, which is really valuable. But before that, with my writing notebooks, I did not have that as a practice. So big drawback. And then the final consideration for handwriting versus typing would be, I said this at the beginning, time to transfer versus copying. And I put in my notes here, the almighty hurry of the capitalist bound millennial, because I feel like I have internal biases here based on the fact that we want to be putting out work. And so that means like I want to have this sort of ability to have a pipeline and get things out faster. And the millennial thing about like, that's the purpose. I can't wallow in this delightful writing because I don't have another fixed sort of income. Like this is what I'm hustling to get out. So just a little bit of age-based bias there, perhaps. So that is the first topic that Hannah covers. I've got editing on the computer versus flow states. So Hannah is a person who likes editing. I am not. I love drafting and I normally hate editing, even though I shouldn't say that because it would just continue to be true. But most nanoers who are discovery writers hate editing, I think. Oh no, Anita says she caved a while ago and paid for more Google storage. Yeah. Oh, and she also took off last year because couldn't handle Nano after all the disasters. Yeah. Yep. Rachel Morley saying hi. Hope we're having a splendid day. I love that you're not stopped by us talking about eating children like you were in Shannon's stream when you tried to say hi. Excellent. Nice to see you here. So one of the things that's popped up lately with this topic is flow. And if you're familiar with Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who is the Czech neuroscientist who talks about flow state, I recently was thinking, I have several friends who have either diagnosed or suspected ADHD, which is attention deficit attention disorder, something like that. Anyway, one of the features of that is that people vacillate between not being able to pay attention and focus and having hyperfocus. And I've heard people relate, like, hyperfocus means that you're concentrated and you can't turn away. Like, you feel compelled to keep doing a thing and finish it no matter what. Like, the sink could be flooding, or someone could be crying, or like whatever is going on, your brain tells you that you have to keep doing this thing until it's finished. That doesn't sound very pleasant. But the flow state is less having to finish than feeling like, and this is what I've gleaned from online sources, because I was curious about this. They sound very similar, but what I think the difference is that flow state is when you sort of disappear as a worrying, mental, things on your plate sort of person, and you're absorbed into the task that you're doing. So for writing, drafting, I'm definitely in this as much as I can be. And I'll talk about inducing the flow state later. But editing, I find that I take every opportunity to jump out of it. It is not my favorite. So I don't get into an editing flow state unless I'm doing fine change, or I'm doing spelling typo errors, like one of these like click, click, click right along kind of automatic brain things. When I'm developmental editing and I'm having to have deep thoughts about the structure or plot of the novel, I am in my head and I'm not looking at the document as much. I have to reflect before I can return and start changing things. When I am copywriting, editing, and I'm looking for language things, I suppose I can get into a flow state with that because I'm trying to listen to the rhythm, which means I have to keep going at a certain pace to hear that voice in my head. So that helps. But yeah, that's editing for me. I will say the handwriting versus the typing thing. If I have a paper copy that I'm editing and I'm, going through with red marks, or going through an editor's red marks on my paper copy so that I can change my digital copy, that is not a flow state. There's so much checking and there's so much changing of not platform, but venue, I guess. It's a very multitasking type of feeling for me. So that is not a flow state either. But if I'm looking at the screen sort of hypnotizes the person, I will say. It's something about the light. And so that makes a flow state more likely sometimes. And then the most important indicator. So here's where I'm going to talk about inducing a flow state. For me, I think this differs for everybody. But for me, I have to expect it to come into the container that I've made, but not depend on it for an immediate result. So that means that there's not something writing on it to make me feel pressured to deliver, because then I'm in my head worrying. But I have created conditions for the container to be there. I'm at the desk, my hands are on the keyboard, I've got the outline on the side. I know in general what the next few chapters need, and I'm waiting for the action to unroll in the movie in my mind. So there, that's my best attempts at a flow state. It's a balance of preparedness and flexibility, and it's like impossible to judge for any other person other than like me and my own brain. So good luck with that. And then the final theme that Hannah talks about is rituals. So I pulled this out, and when I was thinking about it, I have a very different sort of setup for the nano writing mind and the non-nano season writing mind. So, oh, hi, Angela. Stopping by to say hi. Hey, everyone. And S.T. Houston. I've already name dropped you twice, Shannon, so you've been here in spirit. So the last one, during nano seasons, camp or otherwise, the marathon training style of writing seems to work the best for me. And I've said this before recently in sort of like author tube related videos, is that I can be very systematic, very regular, very hardworking, if you will, and show up regularly for a limited time. So if you're running for a marathon, you have a defined goal, you have an end date in mind, and you know you have to do certain things to be in the fitness state to accomplish the goal. So for me, that's kind of how I envision NaNoWriMo containers, right? The month or whatever the period of time is. You prepare for it, you set your schedule and do your best. Things always come up, right? But do your best to get to that fit state and then like let it flow. And what is required for that preparedness, right? So, and that flow state. So during Nano, I will make sure to have certain elements every day. Making wholesome food. So I try to keep, like the whole grains and the proteins and like a mix of foods so that I'm not depriving my system of anything that the brain needs, the body needs. And I balance that with snacking on treats like gummy bears and chocolate. So, flexibility. Then I make sure I have walks and runs outside so that my body is stretching and not just sitting in a seat and like harming myself that way, but also balancing that with the possibility of a nap. So like, I am not going to go pound out a 5-mile run. I can't do that. But I will go do my 4 miles like I did yesterday. And then also like leave the possibility for napping on the couch with the beanster. Right now, he is on the top of the cat tree, so he's not joining me. But, sometimes when I lay on the couch for like a 20-minute nap, he'll sniff. Oh, that looks like a lap. And he'll come up and join me. And that just makes it perfect. Like cuddle time is a good antidote, or balancing, should I say, to like the sweaty, like lungs heaving that happens when I go on a run. So that balances out. And then what I call a runway for getting other tasks done. So I have basically like 4 part-time jobs now, and I try to get through those in a way that leaves flexibility. So I have a runway, meaning like a pipeline maybe. I look ahead a few days and see things that are due, make sure I get them done, or have like slots for them in the days before they're due that I can, if I don't get it here, I'll get it there. And so that gives me some flexibility, and I can shift around those sessions around in a day or the next day or what have you. Like last night, I just remembered at 8:30 at night that I had an analytics report that I was supposed to get to somebody, and I was like, oh, I really have to do that. So went ahead and like spent an hour of my evening time like screenshotting YouTube's stuff and got it done. So, balance, flexibility. What can I say? You got to cultivate it. So that's my like nano recipe for success of like scheduling and planning. Non-nano, I can hardly remember writing outside of Nano because I feel like I always create these sort of timed containers for myself these days. But I broke it down this way. When I have a morning session, Emma Bennett will be very familiar with this. My tools, my setup is basically, I sit in this desk right here. I have granola and yogurt, and sometimes I've even made both myself, which is fun. And usually a cup of tea, if not at the beginning, then halfway through. And I'm still in my PJs. I don't worry about like getting dressed and brushing my teeth and all that. Like morning session is first thing. Early on in Nano, I would do that when it was still dark outside, and it was pretty atmospheric. It was pretty fun. If I have an afternoon session, that means I have water to remember to hydrate right here, right? And I'm usually sitting over there in the armchair because I've had a break and moved around, and like have a different sit to my body so that it's not getting all creaky. And I have an outline. So I will have moved forward on my sort of greater outline and have a few more ideas to work through in this little notebook. So recording ideas, giving myself a runway is important. The evening session is tends to be wherever, whatever. And my last little piece is that one of my rituals that I think, and I don't want to get too into the details of how it works, because I think if I try to, I will mess it up. I will jinx it. But I do a lot of task switching when I write. And I don't know if Hannah will relate to this, because I think Hannah is much more like focus on the task, ease yourself in, and like old school academic vibes, like you're devoting yourself to thinking about something big. I will do something very focused for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then task switch. My task switchers are things that I have to get done anyway, but I'll put them in between so that my brain can switch off, work something in the background, maybe defrag a little bit, and then push it to the forward of the brain again when I sit down. So those include going to cook something, doing a round of dishes, which are never ending, doing a round of vacuuming, not as often as I should probably, taking out the garbage, so I have to go outside and walk out to the trash hut, doing a load of laundry or hanging it up, making those horrible phone calls that I don't want to make, that I have to like do to be an adult. Reading, I'll often do like a reading session. Depends on the type of book, but sometimes nonfiction or fiction will work in either case. Go for a walk, which is a big longer break, take a shower, have a meal, and then like switch back into my tasks or my writing. So that seems to be like my recipe for success. And that is me winding up 2 author-related tags for this NaNoWriMo 2023 video. So if anyone is here as a new writer, good luck. Feel free to ask any questions down in the comments, and I will definitely be here to answer them. I answer questions every day and respond to comments every day. So would love to hear from you. Again, I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and I'm doing Nano this year. You can join me on the Nano website or in any of my other socials, because the Nano website is not very social. But otherwise, hope to see you around in the chats here on YouTube. And that is me today. Angela says, your spirit is making the rounds, Shannon. She just finished her sprints. Excellent. Yes. Rachel says, thumbs up as a writing ritual for sure. Maggie says, going to catch the first half on the replay because it didn't start. It was a bit last minute, Maggie. That's true. And Felicia just dropping in to say hello, Felicia. So I got lovely author friends here. I just want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Remember to diversify that reading list. Push yourself out of that comfort zone. Explore a new thing. Maybe it's my book, because I've got a box set coming out in 2 days on Tuesday. So it's a great opportunity to check out some new historical fiction. Otherwise, happy writing, friends, and I will catch you again soon.